everyone. Welcome to STEAM Storytime at Home, Nocturnal Animals. I am Miss Christina with the Wallingford Public Library, and I am going to read a story with you and then go over the activities in your kits so you know what to do. All right, so a nocturnal animal. Who knows what a nocturnal animal is? If we say something's nocturnal. Yes, nocturnal means that the animal is awake during the night and sleeps during the day. So conversely, if an animal is nocturnal, that means it is not diurnal. Now, diurnal is the opposite. So that means that an animal is awake during the day and sleeps at night. So what do you think people are? Are people generally nocturnal or diurnal? Yeah, people are diurnal, right? Now, a lot of times these animals, because they're out in the night, they can kind of seem kind of spooky and scary, when really they could be very helpful and good animals. Although some of them can be kind of a pest. I'm looking at you, raccoon. But, you know, that's another issue entirely. All right, so let's read our first book. I have here The Bat Book by Charlotte Milner. Now, bats are one of my favorite animals. I think they're some of the coolest creatures. So I'm excited to share this with you. All right. Let's see, turn this a bit. All right. So where do bats live? Bats are found all over the world, except for the North and South poles because it's too cold for them there. And there are over 1,300 different species of bats. Like, they're the most numerous kind of mammal, which is such a crazy number to think about. There's so many different kinds of bats. And because they've adapted to live in different kinds of environments, you'll find them in the cities, you'll find them in forests, you'll find them in the desert. Some bats are big. The biggest bat is the giant golden-crowned flying fox, which has a wingspan of more than 5 feet. Now, I'm like 5'11", and so my wingspan is gonna be like at least 5 feet, which is like ginormous. Can you imagine a bat that big? I've never seen that. It'd probably be kind of scary. I will admit that, even though I love bats. But 5 feet, that's huge. That's like a condor, probably the size of like a California condor. Ooh. All right. And then conversely, some bats are really small. The bumblebee bat gets its name from its tiny size. Its body is about the size of a large bumblebee and weighs more than 1/10 of an ounce, or like 2 grams. So that would be like, you know, around like that big or something. You see that? That's so small. That's such a huge size difference in bats, don't you think? Some bats are really fast. The Mexican free-tailed bat is the fastest of all bats and can fly at a speed of 100 miles per hour. Some bats can sing. Like a songbird, the greater sack-winged bat sings to defend its territory. Its loud song can be heard more than 328 feet away. Some bats live really long lives. Brandt's bats can live for 40 years or longer. That's nearly 10 times longer than most any other animal of the same size. And some bats have style. The hair on the male Chapin free-tailed bat's head sticks up like a spiked hairdo. You see that? Oh goodness. And what is a bat? A bat is the only mammal that can fly. Mammals are a large group of animals that include humans. Like humans, bats are warm-blooded, have a bony skeleton, and give birth to live babies instead of laying eggs like birds or reptiles or amphibians. During the day, bats are asleep. Most bats sleep with their heads facing down. Some bats hang upside down with their feet, and others cling to the sides of trees, rocks, or buildings. During the night, bats are awake. Now, what do we call that again? Right, nocturnal. And most bats live together in a large group called a colony. The place where bats live is called a roost. In the roost, bats sleep, groom themselves, and have babies. Now, what do bats do when it's cold? Some bats live in parts of the world where there are cold winters. During these chilly months, there's not enough food around for bats to eat. To survive winter, they hibernate, which means they go into a deep sleep, living off the fat they have stored up over the warmer months. So right now, they're probably setting up to, or getting ready to hibernate, huh? And what do they do when it's warm? During warm nights, bats are busy finding and eating food such as insects. Female bats also gather once a year to have babies. Each female bat gives birth to one baby called a pup. She cares for her pup by feeding it with milk until the young bat is ready to fly. Now, what do bats look like? Now, they can also, because there's so many different kinds of bats, they kind of look a lot different. It can look pretty different. So we have mega bats. So that would be like the one that's like 5 feet, has a 5-foot wingspan. And then there are also the microbats. So that would be like that bumblebee bat. Now, megabats grow to be much larger than microbats. They have big eyes and long snouts. And when they hang upside down, they like to wrap themselves up with their wings. Microbats, some of them have tails. They have small eyes and usually short snouts. So you can see it's pretty short right there, whereas here, much longer. That kind of reminds me of like my dog or something. And when they like to fold their wings alongside their bodies. Can you see that? So instead of wrapping it around themselves like the megabat does, they just have it on their sides. And then, see, there are different kinds of faces here. So 3 different kinds of bats, microbats. They have curiously shaped ears and noses, which help them to hear and to make sounds. All right, a bat's body. Bats have special features that make them experts at flying and finding prey. So, like us, a bat has 4 fingers and a thumb, but a bat's fingers are long and skin stretches between them. So here's its thumb and its 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger, and its 5th finger. A bat's thumb is short and has a claw at the end, which it uses to climb trees. Finger bones inside a bat's wing are light and bendy. Having flexible finger bones and joints means that bats are more agile when flying than most birds are. And curved, sharp claws on a bat's toes help it to hook onto surfaces while it's hanging upside down. Bats also have fur, which help them to keep warm, and they have small, sharp teeth to help them bite into the fruit or into prey. Now, some bats can't see very well with their eyes. Others rely more on hearing and sense of smell to know what's around them. Now, how do they fly? The bones in a bat's wing are more similar to the bones in a human than they are to a bird's wing. When bats fly, they can move their wings almost like we can move our hands, which makes them very flexible and very acrobatic flyers. So let me take a look at that. So there's the bird, there's a human hand and arm, and then there's the bat's wing. So you can see it's like it's got its arm here, and then those really long fingers with skin in between. It kind of makes me think like between our fingers, there's like that bit of skin right in there, only they have like a lot more, right? Now, why do bats hang upside down? Bats can't launch off the ground into flight like birds do. So instead, they climb to a high point, hang upside down, and then fall into flight. So you can see here, it's hanging upside down, and then it lets go with its feet, and it puts its wings out, and it flies. Hanging upside down is the perfect position for bats to quickly fly away whenever they need to. But isn't hanging upside down tiring? If we were to hang from our hands for hours, our muscles would get very tired, but bats can hang upside down without any effort at all. This is because their leg muscles can relax while their feet are clenched, but a bat only uses its muscles to pull its claws open. Now, where do they like to hang out? Some of them like to hang out inside a tree. Others from the branches of a tree. A lot like to hang out in caves, and others will hang out in buildings. And then some unusual places. A tent-making bat. Bats nibble and fold leaves to build their own tent for roosting. The lesser bamboo bat is one of the world's smallest mammals and roosts inside the hollow stems of bamboo. Can you imagine? There's the sucker-footed bat, has suction pads on its wrists. Can you see that? And ankles, and can roost on the smooth and shiny leaves of the traveler's tree. Another kind of bat nests in, or I guess sleeps in the nest of like a sunbird. And then the hardwick woolly bats roost inside a carnivorous pitcher plant. So the plant gives the bat shelter while the bat's poop helps the plant learn to grow. And I guess the poison doesn't hurt it. Now, what do bats like to eat? Many bats eat fruit and nectar from plants. Others eat insects like the gypsy moth, June bug, katydid, leafcutter, stink bug. Maybe that's why you see so many stink bugs at winters, because the bats are hibernating and not eating them like they should be. Some microbats eat small animals such as centipedes, fish, frogs, and even scorpions. Frog-eating bats learn the different calls of frogs to know whether the frog is poisonous or if it'll make a tasty meal. Out of all the bats, only 3 species are vampire bats that eat the blood of mammals and birds. Vampire bats make a painless cut from which they lick blood. So vampire bats are not very common. Now, how do bats find food in the dark? You might have heard the phrase blind as a bat, but not only can bats see with their eyes, many of them also use sound to see in the dark. Using sound to find things is called echolocation. Like whales and dolphins, bats use echolocation to find food. So they send out a chirping sound in sound waves, and when it hits an object, the sound comes back to them with the same sound, so like an echo. So, you know, if you've ever been in a room or like a canyon and you hear that echo, it's the same kind of thing. And so when it comes back to them, the bat is then able to figure out where this insect is. But not just where, it can figure out the shape of an insect and in which direction the insect is flying. Now, moths versus bats. Bats use echolocation to catch moths in the dark, but some moths have interesting ways to confuse bats and avoid getting eaten. The moon moth has long tails on its rear wings for a good reason. Moths with longer tails are more likely to escape from a bat. This is because bats do not eat the wings of a moth, so they aim for the body when they strike. The long moth tails confuse bats so that they strike for the tails instead of the body, and the moth can fly away unharmed. Now, why are bats so important? Well, they help with pollination. Now, pollination is when a bat puts its head into a flower to get some nectar, and some of the pollen that's inside there gets onto like the bat's nose. And then the bat goes to a different flower, and when it gets the nectar, some of that pollination from that first flower goes onto the second flower. And now this flower is now able to make more seeds and then therefore make more flowers. So it's very important. That's how we get our food, is from pollination. They also act as seed dispersers. So when they're eating some fruits, some of the seed can fall out. Sometimes they pick up the fruits to take to a different spot, and they might drop it. Then the seeds can grow in that new spot. Or sometimes it can come out with their number 2s. Have you ever eaten some corn and then seen it a little bit later from a different area? It's the same kind of idea. So when they poop, there's seeds inside their poop, and wherever they poop, those seeds can then sprout. Bats help lots of important plants to grow. So bats are really important for helping grow mangoes and guava, passion fruit, durian, figs, papaya, and bananas. All need bats to help them pollinate so we can get more of those fruits. And they also help out with barns. These foods are all grown with the help of bats that keep insects away. So chocolate made from cocoa beans, sugar made from sugar cane, almonds, walnuts, rice, pears, and cucumbers all need the help of bats. And so bats help to keep different ecosystems healthy. But bats are in decline. Now, why is that? Well, there's a lot of myths and misunderstandings around them. As we said before, some people think that bats are spooky. But really, along with ghosts and monsters, images of bats are often seen at Halloween. But bats are far from spooky. Vampire bats actually look after other bats in their colony by feeding them when they're sick. This caring behavior is rare in the natural world. So a vampire bat might seem kind of scary, but they help other bats, which is not very common, as it says. There's also a fear or a myth that bats are going to suck your blood. And as we said before, there are only three species of bats that eat blood. And they are found in the Americas, but they only approach animals during the night when the animal is asleep and still. So don't sleep outside if that's something that you are afraid of, right? And you'll be just fine. Some people also think that bats are rodents, and they are not rodents. Those are two completely different kinds of animals. Now, some other threats to bats are pesticides. So when you spray like your garden and your lawn with chemicals, those chemicals can then get eaten or consumed by the bats, and that can make them sick and die. Collisions, they can fly into power lines, they get hit by cars, they can collide with wind turbines. Hunting, in some parts of the world, people like to eat bats, and so they catch them and eat them. In the northeastern United States, a large number of bats have been found with white fungus growing on their noses and wings. And this fungus makes bats very sick and it kills them. Some species, such as the little brown bat, are close to extinction. Let's see, other issues is that there's fewer places for bats to live. I guess it's possible for a bat to roost inside your attic, which I love bats, but I'm not sure how much I want that. But it says that they won't damage your home by nibbling and chewing, and that bats are usually only there to hibernate or to have their babies, and that it won't become infested because they only give to one bat a year, so their numbers don't increase really quickly, like say like a rabbit would or insects. And bats are also protected by law, which means that there are rules that say we can't harm them. So if you find a bat in your home, you got to contact a bat conservation organization, and they'll be able to give you some advice. But I think their bat poop is what could be an issue. But anyway, controversy, right? Okay. So how can you help bats? You can support a bat charity. You can learn more about them. And then like there's this thing here where you can make seed bombs to grow some plants, which bats will eat, the nectar, or maybe it'll attract the insects that the bats like to eat. And some flowers, some bat-friendly plants are like borage, cornflower, wallflower, jasmine, evening primrose, honeysuckle. All right, so bats are super awesome. And I hope that maybe I've convinced you. Hopefully I haven't bored you to death with it. Okay, so for our activities, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. So in your kits, you've got the information about the activities. The first activity is called Echolocation Tag. Now in your kits, you're gonna have a clicker and a shaker. Now what you're gonna do, you're gonna need at least 2 people to play this. You'll have one person be the bat, so they get the clicker, and then the other person will be an insect, like a moth, and they're gonna get the shaker. And so make sure you're in a nice safe place, because the person who's the bat, they're gonna be blindfolded, okay? And so you wanna be in a safe spot where, the bat's not gonna get hurt. Now when you're playing, the bat is gonna click, because the bats, remember, they make like a chirping sound to find where the insects are. And then the insect then has to shake the shaker. And now the bat, when you hear the shaker, you've got to identify where you're hearing that and then go tag the moth. Now the bat, you can click as many times as you need to, to find your moth. And the moth is allowed to fly around, okay? And for extra fun, you can decorate these. So they're just a plain, plain white, and then you can add your own pizzazz to them. The next game is a nocturnal versus diurnal sort. So there's a few different sheets. There's the one that's stapled together. This is your answer sheet, so don't look at this one yet, all right? What you wanna do is on these ones where there's like a grid, go ahead and cut these out. Now this can be done by the grown-ups or kids. You can do it too if you're wanting some scissor practice. So you cut them up, and then you mix it all up, and then you want to divide the animals. You see the bats. Oh, well, we've just talked about a bat, right? So we know a bat is it nocturnal or diurnal? Right, it's nocturnal. So you'd put it in your nocturnal pile. And then when you see a different animal, you'd be like, okay, a dog. Is a dog awake during the day, or does it sleep during the day? Is it awake during the night, or is it sleeping at night? Some of these animals like to sleep all the time, right? So you sort them out. And if you really want to get all into it, create like a night scene on a sheet of paper, and on a different sheet of paper, do like a day scene. So you have your diurnal and your nocturnal. And then our third activity is making a firefly. Now, this is what it looks like when it's finished. And so you will need from home, you'll need a bottle of some sort, not like a 2-liter one that's too big, but like a 16 or 20 ounce bottle. And so what you'll do, you'll have all these and you'll need tape too. So you'll tape the 2 sets of wings on to the bottle about like the shoulder is like around here. So just a little bit lower than that. And fireflies have 2 sets of wings. There's like this overprotective layer, and then the underneath one is like lighter and a little more flexible. And then insects have 6 legs. So you'll tape on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 legs. And then they have 3 main body parts. They have their head, the thorax, and then the abdomen. All right, so now we're gonna glue on this upper thorax parts. You do that. And then tape on the eyes, and then there's some pipe cleaners. So you wanna, twist those together and then tape those on kind of in between the eyes. And then you'll also get a glow stick. So you wanna activate this and then put it in, because what's special about fireflies? Yep, they have a glowing end. Now, the way they do it is that in their abdomen, they breathe in air. So they're not breathing air up here. They breathe it in through their abdomen. And then the air, the oxygen in the air mixes with a chemical they have in here. And when those two combine, they create a bioluminescent light. All right. I think that is everything. As always, if you have any questions, give me a call or email me, and I will be glad to help you out. And I would really love to see your pictures. It's so awesome to see what you're doing. I really loved to see what you guys did with the dino kits. And so I hope you have a really fun time with this kit. Thanks, guys. Bye.